Nuclear war warnings, border closures, terror attacks, 50 million death predictions, and threats of full-scale war. India and Pakistan, two nuclear giants, are on the brink. The world is holding its breath. This is the most dangerous standoff in recent times. Tensions are simmering between two nuclear-armed nations, India and Pakistan. Longtime adversaries following the April 22nd terror attack in Palam, a popular tourist destination in Indian side of Kashmir, which claimed 26 lives, mostly tourists. India has long accused its western neighbor of stoking and sponsoring armed militancy in Kashmir, allegations that Pakistan firmly denies. The Himalayan region of Jammu and Kashmir is divided between India and Pakistan, with both nations claiming it in its entirety. Responsibility for the attack, which was widely condemned, was reportedly claimed in a social media post by the Resistance Front, or TIACREF, believed to be a subsidiary of Lashkar-e-Taiba Elite, a UN-designated terrorist organization based in Pakistan. However, TRF, as per reports in Indian media, later denied involvement, calling the attribution false, hasty, and part of an orchestrated campaign to malign the Kashmiri resistance. IT further claimed that an unauthorized message was posted from its platform after a cyber attack. In response to the attack, India swiftly announced a raft of measures aimed at downgrading ties with Pakistan. On April 23rd, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that cross-border linkages to the Patel game attack had been confirmed. India announced the closure of its mainland border with Pakistan, the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, and the halting of Pakistani nationals' travel under the SIAC visa exemption program. The following day, India's Ministry of External Affairs escalated measures further, declaring that all Pakistani nationals' visas were being revoked with a deadline of April 27th for their departure. Medical visas would become void after April 29th. All existing valid visas issued by India to Pakistani nationals stand revoked, with effect from 27th April 2025, that medical visas issued to Pakistani nationals will be valid only till 2019 to April 12, 2025. All Pakistani nationals currently in India must leave India before the expiry of visas, as now amended. Indian nationals are strongly advised to avoid traveling to Pakistan. Those Indian nationals currently in Pakistan are also advised to return to India at the earliest. Pakistan responded with retaliatory steps. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announced the closure of Pakistani airspace to Indian-owned or operated airlines and suspended visas for Indian nationals under the SAYOC framework. Islamabad also warned that any attempt by India to divert Indus River waters will be considered an act of war. Pakistan continued to deny involvement in the Palgar attack and urged India to take responsibility for its security lapses. The Indus Waters Treaty, signed in 1960 following the partition and independence of India and Pakistan in 1947, governs the sharing of the Indus River system, granting India control over 3 eastern rivers and Pakistan maximum control over 3 western rivers. Meanwhile, on April 27th, during his monthly public address, Man Ki Baat, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi promised justice for the victims, warning that those behind the Belgium attack would face the harshest response. Although he did not explicitly name Pakistan, I once again assure the affected families that they will get justice, and justice will be done. The perpetrators and conspirators of this attack will be served with the harshest response. Diplomatic briefings in New Delhi suggest that India is quietly building a case for possible military action. However, global powers such as the United States and the European Union have urged restraint, though they remain largely distracted by other ongoing crises. Experts caution that any military clash between the two nuclear-armed neighbors risks rapid escalation. Adding to the diplomatic back and forth, Prime Minister of Pakistan Shehbaz Sharif on April 26th expressed openness to a neutral investigation into the Palgar attack. The recent tragedy in Bihar, GOM, is yet another example of this perpetual blame game, which must come to a grinding halt. Continuing with its role as a responsible country, Pakistan is open to participating in any neutral, transparent, and credible investigation, amid escalating tensions between India and Pakistan. Following the partial gum terror attack, a Pakistani federal minister has issued a stark nuclear threat. On April 26th, Hanif Abbasi, Pakistan's railway minister, warned that Pakistan's missile arsenal, including the Gauri-Shaheen and Ghazni Navy missiles and its 130 nuclear warheads, are only for India. Abbasi declared that if India suspends the Indus Waters Treaty and halts Pakistan's water supply, it should prepare for a full-scale war. He emphasized that Pakistan's nuclear weapons are not symbolic, but strategically hidden across the country, ready for deployment if provoked. Pakistan's arsenal, including Gauri-Shaheen and Ghazni Navy missiles, along with 130 nuclear warheads, has been kept only for India. If they stop the water supply to us, then they should be ready for a war. The military equipment we have, the missiles we have, they're not for display. Nobody knows where we have placed our nuclear weapons across the country. I say it again, these ballistic missiles, all of them are targeted at you. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Asif, in an interview with RTI News, made a startling admission. He acknowledged that his country had supported terror groups for decades under Western influence. Asif also accused India of staging the Palghar attack to malign Pakistan. As tensions continue to soar, Islamabad has hinted at readiness for economic retaliation and further measures under a developing strategy referred to as Operation Indus Fallout. We have been doing this dirty work for the U.S. and the West, including Britain, for 3 decades. If we had not joined the war against the Soviet Union and later on following the 9/11 attacks, Pakistan would have an unimpeachable track record as tensions flare between nuclear-armed neighbors India and Pakistan following the April 22nd Palam attack. Declassified U.S. intelligence reports from the 1980s and 1990s, as published by the National Security Archive, reveal a sobering reality. The threat of nuclear escalation has always loomed large, according to a 1989 State Department intelligence report. Even when wars seemed unlikely, the risk of a conventional conflict spiraling into nuclear war was considered high. Analysts warned that flashpoint points like Kashmir, coupled with political miscalculations, could trigger disaster. The risk was high that through a miscalculation or irrational response, a conventional war might turn into a nuclear exchange. In 1993, a national intelligence estimate predicted a 1 in 5 chance of war between India and Pakistan, emphasizing Kashmir extremist politics and internal meddling as key dangers. IT also noted the role of rising hardline groups in both countries in destabilizing regional peace. The coming to power of extremist parties in either India or Pakistan could raise the risk of conflict as both nations advance their nuclear capabilities. U.S. intelligence assessed deterrence as fragile and vulnerable to collapse, even though both sides understood the catastrophic consequences of war. Experts feared that militant activity, intelligence failures, or extremist politics could still ignite a larger conflict. As per National Intelligence Estimate October 1st, 1993, both sides recognized that war would be catastrophic. But miscalculations, militant activity, and intelligence failures could still trigger escalation. The archive documents further highlight past fears of preventive strikes, such as India targeting Pakistani nuclear facilities, which would have risked radioactive fallout and regional instability. A 2019 scientific study projected that a nuclear war between India and Pakistan could kill up to 50 million people and trigger a global climate crisis, causing massive agricultural collapse and famines affecting millions to billions worldwide. Today, as India downgrades ties with Pakistan and both sides exchange threats, including nuclear warnings, the historical warnings feel eerily prescient. Experts caution that even now, Despite mutual public restraint, the potential for miscalculation remains dangerously real that a military conflict between India and Pakistan would pose a grave threat to U.S. interests and global security, according to a Newsweek report. Both countries possess nuclear weapons, and any escalation could quickly spiral into a catastrophic nuclear exchange, potentially resulting in millions of casualties and destabilizing the entire region. Such a conflict would disrupt vital global supply chains, threaten international markets, and undermine years of U.S. efforts to promote stability and economic growth in South Asia. For Washington, the stakes are higher than ever. The U.S. has deepened its strategic partnership with India, especially through military trade and technological cooperation, while also relying on Pakistan for counterterrorism cooperation and managing regional dynamics with China. A war would force the U.S. to navigate its support for India against the need to prevent a wider conflict and maintain some leverage with Pakistan. Additionally, a destabilized South Asia would complicate U.S. efforts to counter terrorism as militant groups could exploit the chaos. The risk of a nuclear confrontation would also draw in global powers, potentially leading to a broader international crisis as tensions flare. The U.S. must balance calls for restraint with its commitment to regional allies, knowing that any miscalculation could have devastating worldwide consequences.